Hear, O Israel, the great I am is the only power for you. The great I am is one. Speak peace on this seventh day of rest. Rise, O Israel. Welcome to Word War 3. Our reference today will be Romans chapter 12, verse 9. And this message, or this discussion, this video, this reading will be entitled Integration and Assimilation for mature audiences. Now, quote, one who relates with a corrupt person likewise gets corrupted. And that is an African proverb, a Kenyan proverb. Now, folks, before we get started here, I would like to remind, our visitors, our viewers, that when I say that I am a Hebrew Israelite and I am also a conscientious objector and a minister of peace, I've lived the civilian life of an American, and I'm beyond that now. So as a conscientious objector, the military has set me apart from the philosophy of Americanism. So there is no law pertaining to what a conscientious objector can think. Again, there's no United States law defining a conscientious objector. There's no law. There's a definition of a conscientious objector, but there's no law. So a conscientious objector is therefore placed onto the international law system. So again, when I say that I am an indigenous Hebrew Israelite and a conscientious objector and, a minister of peace, I'm getting those things from my ancestors, my immediate ancestors, my grandparents and my parents, my mom, my family, and what the Holy Scriptures has described for us as Hebrew Israelites. And the notion of a Hebrew Israelite is to step away from the gods that have been forced on us through human trafficking, the chattel slavery of the United States, and also the philosophical sciences that have been forced on us. Sciences, religion, all that stuff that have been forced on us. So I have stepped away from that. So, when people look at me and they say, oh, why is he thinking like that? Why is he doing that? Because I am no longer Americanized. Personally, as a person, I am no longer Americanized. So when you see me say, hey, the United States is a beast system, I can say that with promise because I live that as a civilian, as a citizen of the United States. I lived through that. And the military saw that I was most honest. I was most honest as to being a Hebrew Israelite, and everything about me was honest to them. So they couldn't do anything but to follow their rules and regulations to say, yes, this man is serious about what he is saying. And therefore, they sent my records to the National Archives. And now I'm in the National Archives as an indigenous Hebrew Israelite. Now, let's get started. So, we're talking about integration. And integration, is a thing that says, people are to be equal among each other. And where all this comes from, it's a people who have already human trafficked one group of people to other locations to spread them out. There's this law body. It's called the Corpus Juris Secundum. And the Corpus Juris Secundum comes from the Corpus Juris Civilis. And this is an Eastern Roman Catholic or Byzantium law. The Corpus Juris Civilis means it's the body of juris of law or citizens law, the body of citizens law, or the something like on those lines. And the Corpus Juris Secundum, which the United States uses today, it means the second body of law. So Corpus Juris Secundum is pretty much taking its ideology from the Eastern Roman Catholic or Byzantium law. Now, it's an encyclopedia of secondary law written for regular people to understand clearly in what law is in plain English. In plain English, they're telling you what the law is. They're not using the what it's called, the legalese language of lawyers. And legalese is English language in the form of direct words that may appear to mean something that you know in English, but they're actually acting as a different form. But it's all English. This is one of the reasons why I say English is a garbage language sometimes, because it has so many different languages in it that can mean one thing, but it's directed toward the other. So in this Corpus Juris Secundum, again, it's an encyclopedia. It's an encyclopedia for giving you an idea of what the law is directly in a plain English. Now, the Corpus Juris Secundum calls the United States a corporation in subsection 88.3. Again, the United States not only is a corporation, but it is a foreign corporation in Corpus Juris Secundum, subsection 88.3. And again, that's just one source. You can go to the District of Columbia Organic Act, and it's a statute at large, 16 Statute 419 Act of 1871. Whereas the United States secured the land called, as Washington, D.C., as an entity in the United States. They already had Philadelphia, it was called the president's mansion in Philadelphia. They already had a body acting as the head of government in Philadelphia, but they wanted to secure the land in Washington, D.C. What is known as Washington, D.C. today, back then was the city of Washington, named after Washington because that's where he lived. That's where the so-called first president of the United States lived. There were presidents before him. There was presidents of the Articles of Confederation. But the first president of the United States, as so-called, was from Virginia, and they took on the city that area that he lived in to name it Washington, D.C. And as these references are saying that it's a foreign corporation, not even a government, but it acts as a governing body. Now here today, again, and this acting governing body has codified itself in 28 U.S. Code subsection 3002, the definitions. Number 15, the United States means 15A, a federal corporation. Now, if we go back up, we're in 15A. If we go back up to 12, U.S. Code, 28 U.S. Code, subsection 3002, in the definitions, number 12, it'll let you know what property includes. And it'll give you the property includes what civilian or citizens' cultures is, like whatever the citizen has to do in that type of culture. And it also excludes Indian culture. So again, U.S. Code subsection 3002 in the definitions, down in number 12, it's telling you that there's a division. You have what property belongs to citizens of the United States and what property belongs to Indian culture or Indians. Indians as a tribal whole or individual Indians. And not only that, it describes the division of Indian lands. So going back to this idea of integration and assimilation, you have this subsection 3002 dividing the people of the United States. The people, because Indians are people. And believe it or not, if you Negroes out there don't believe that you are an Indian, then that's something that you have to take up with the Department of Education, with the Department of your education, because you have been lied to for a very long time from a people who told you that you were integrated and you're really not. People who told you that you have been assimilated to their culture and you're really not. And they have showed every action that they have not been assimilated, that you or your present nationality, they call you black or African American, that you are not assimilated, because to even call you an African American, to even call you a black or Negro, that means that you're not assimilated. Because if you are assimilated, you will actually be equal to. All people would be white if you were truly assimilated in this country. Please remember that if you were assimilated, you will be on an equal plane. You will be given everything that the white person has been given. Every drop of it. Every freedom, if it was some money given, it'd be given to you as well. Anything and everything. That is what integration and assimilation means, to the very word. But you have not. Again, to go into the definition, our reference was Romans 12:9. To go into the definition of dissimulation. And again, this is the opposite of assimilation, dissimulation. The act of dissembling, a hiding under a false appearance, a feigning, false pretense, hypocrisy. Dissimulation may be simply concealment of the opinions, sentiments, or purpose, but it includes also the assuming of a false or counterfeit appearance which conceals the real opinions or purpose. Dissimulation among statesmen is sometimes regarded as a necessary vice or as no vice at all. Now, again, if you are truly assimilated to a people, then you wouldn't have to worry about this Romans chapter 12, verse 9 word called dissimulation, because it's the exact opposite of assimilation. And if this government is telling you that you are assimilated to it, then you don't have to worry about the exact opposite. But as long as Negroes have been associated with white people in the Americas, with white people in the United States. Assimilation has been the idea. Assimilation has been the thing. Like we're communicating in English right now. And that's one of the parts of assimilation. But to be fully assimilated, to be fully integrated, again, the assimilation means to bring to a likeness, to cause to resemble. And integrate means, now assimilate comes from the Greek, and integrated comes from the Latin. So to be integrated means to renew, to restore, to be perfect, to be perfected, or to make a thing entire. And there has been, throughout the whole history of the so-called blacks and the so-called white people being together, they have never been equal. Even all the way up until getting a black president in the United States, statesmen, state representatives called his family monkeys. I'm going to end this video, this reading at that point. And I just like to say that there is no African American or black history without the terrorism being a reminder. And you can go and you can find all the African first, all the, the African invented this, the African American invented that. You can go and do that, but it also comes along with the terrorism that they had to go through to get through it. And without that terrorism, just think how far the so-called African Americans would have got without it. I am a Hebrew Israelite. I'm a conscientious objector, and I'm also a minister of peace. Hebrew Israelite out.